Yeah, today I'm going to talk about a question I get a lot. It's about oaths, pacts and contracts and protection with spirits. And since many have started the journey quite recently and others are seasoned, so it's different. But in today's age we have a lot of books about protection magic, and that is not always a good thing. And people always give this advice that don't call on any spirits unless you have the authority to banish them. So people in desperation buy a book and then they start protecting themselves without really knowing what they are doing there. And in the old days you worked with the 4 archangels there, nothing else. Even before you work with elementals. But when you work with elementals, you usually chose a path of, let's say, druidry or a pantheon, like the Greek or Egyptian or something, that you had a calling towards a specific fate within the paganism that protected you. But now when they mix everything up, it might be a little bit more difficult. And there is, if you are, let's say that somebody is the first in the family to ever, for a few generations, to start becoming spiritual. They don't even know what they want, or they don't know how many other pantheons or what kind of things you might be doing. So spirits are not allowed to treat you badly at that and hold you responsible for that thing. God sees to that. So don't be afraid of that. But then something that often happens, you realize that your dreams are not realistic or what you believe that magic should be, or they have become a nightmare. That sometimes, very rarely, but it does happen. And then others get the soul's urge to change path. That is your soul calling out to a completely different tradition, and that happens as well. And that comes usually once you start to connect spiritual and you suddenly start to long for something different, and you just know that that is where you have to go. So you need to change. And when you're cutting, let's say that you started a practice, and many did it at least when the goddess era became, and leveling era, and they said, oh, I'm going to dedicate myself to this goddess or god, and so on and so on. And then you can't just leave it at that and start a new part. You call on the spirits, even the demons, where it's necessary, whatever you chose, and you make an end with respect. Tell them that you have thanked them for what they taught you and so on, and say that you are moving on and not returning, or whatever is right for you. And there is that thing, once you entered into the spiritual world, since you are stepping in, not so much in the spiritual, but if you do magic, you have entered in. And so you are already in. So quitting, it's not as easy as it might be for somebody who just tries praying or a yoga practice. And that is something that people don't realize. That once the spirits have noticed you, even if you stop completely and work in the regular world and so on, they can come back years or even decades later. So here's that warning there, that don't enter a pact ever. And don't give an oath unless you have felt the call from the heart. And that must be a heartfelt call. It is like that you know that you have no other way, since you can't breathe, you can't live, you don't want to exist unless you do that. And that's why I gave an oath to God. But unless you have it so strong that you know that you just can't, then don't. And even the New Testament, Christ warns against giving an oath to God, so I wish I would have read that before. Life would be easier sometimes when you are trying out different things and you are not oath-bound. But on the bright side, pacts can be broken, even demonic ones. But that takes work, and it takes a clear change in your actions in this world. And then there is that period where everything seems that everything is okay, and then usually when you are happy or your life is starting to grow, maybe 30 years later you are starting a family or becoming a grandparent, and things look bright, then they enter in and now they make their claim, you promised me something. So in those cases it is prayer, dedication and discipline, even if you use a different religion or faith, but it takes that effort from you. And also to bring you some peace, if you have been tricked, let's say that an angel or a demon appears like an angel of light, or a loved relative like they often do, or other spirits tricking you, then you have always a protection and you are not bound by that, since you were fooled. And it is like it's said in the scriptures that when you are a child you don't know always. And we learn through these lessons. And you have protection. And whenever you're in doubt and you feel that something is off, go to the Creator, whatever name you call it, but you need to go back to the roots. And sometimes it is always, and I would say always, track your steps. Whatever pantheon or practice you tried, close those with respect and move on. They might still influence you and remind you, but do that with respect and set up the boundaries as you are more, when you have the experience, so you can set boundaries. And don't let fear enter in here. You go forward with trust, with authority, and the experience and authority comes with practice as well. And if you completely want to change your life and don't want to deal with magic, then ask the angels to intervene and make a case about your free will and that you make a choice. But that choice means that you are never ever going to come back in. And if you are young, you might jump between coming and going. And then we also have people who are constantly in the spiritual world. So they have to stay there, not by choice, but they might have been born in that way. So be patient and forgive yourself, but also know that wisdom comes with age, and we all have done things that we regret in our youth. But sometimes things we did in as early as in our childhood and teenage years can haunt us at the age of 80. So this was just like the basis of what you can do and how to go about it. And I helped many people who made pacts with demons, that since sometimes they got really scared, and you need, let's say that they want to do an evocation to end up face to face, and that can be scary. And those are the times when you step in and help them to perform the evocation and to get the message through, so they are not there alone. So this was all for now, and I hope it helps people, and also people who want to leave the occult or the magic. And whatever it is, you have free will. But free will always has a price. You have to stand up for your beliefs and be yourself and speak honestly from your heart. That's the key. I love you all. Bye for now.